Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Cameron here.
And Nicole.
Welcome back to the I'm Not Crazy podcast. We're in our October spooky season.
Spooky.
We're keeping it pretty relaxed this year. We're a new podcast. We're just getting up on our feet here. So we decided to do a series.
Well, we also have like a lot of life events going on too,
That's
which is
true.
kind of crazy.
We're trying to buy our first house. There's a lot going on, folks.
We were engaged, we got married, and we're buying a house, and that was all in like the past few months.
Yeah, so you know
Cool.
what? Screw you guys. We're working on it. We'll get you more consistent episodes in the coming weeks. But we decided to do a little Halloween October series for you. We're calling Reddit Real or Not. Nicole and I have both gone on the interwebs. We've looked for ghost stories without really reading them. We didn't read any of these in advance.
I just kind of
skimmed
through, and I was like, that sounds great.
I just kind of looked for length, and anything that was too short cut out, anything that was like real long cut out. But I heard some of yours are long.
Yeah,
We're going to find out. I don't exactly know what we're in store for, but we're going to go through some ghost stories back and forth, and we're going to vote if we think it's real or not. Story 1. I grew up in an area that used to be a Potawatomi Sioux and French fur trading village.
Wait. I have the same one.
Okay, I'll skip
No,
it.
I'm gonna skip it. This was my first one. It's. I grew up in the area that used to be a Potawatomi Sioux and French fur trading village.
Yep.
The history. Fuck.
No problem.
It's okay.
If we have repeats, we'll just skip through them.
It's fine. I have like 10 of them, anyways.
I grew up in an area that used to be a Potawatomi Sioux and French fur trading village. The history is relevant. Outside of town, just down the road from my grandma's house, was a clearing in the woods on top of a hill right near a spring. When I was a kid, my dad chose to situate a single-story ranch-style prefab house in that clearing, and we moved into it when I was maybe 12 or 13 years old. The weirdness started right away. Within a few days of moving in, when we were all watching a movie in the living room, we heard a loud bang, like a gunshot in the kitchen. We went to see if something had fallen over, though nothing was out of place. Then came the silhouettes that would walk behind us in our reflections, always in the kitchen windows. After that came the footsteps on the roof, always after midnight, pacing slowly from one end of the house to the other, like someone keeping watch. I think I was the only person who ever heard those, since everyone else was usually asleep by then. Sometimes I would go out onto the back porch to see if anyone was up there, but of course there never was. Finally, it all came to a head when I was 16. It was late, and I was shutting everything down for the night, turning off all the lights room by room as I headed to the bedroom. I stopped in the kitchen just long enough to get a cup of water, then turned off the light. At this point, only the hallway light and my bedroom light were on. I was taking a drink as I headed into the dining room, and when I lowered the cup, I saw a person standing in front of me, and I stopped. It was another girl. Didn't know the tense this whole time. Who looked about my age. She had long blonde hair that was wild and messy, like she'd just rolled out of bed and come running. And she was wearing a dingy, whitish Civil War era nightgown, and she had blue eyes that were open, wide, in sheer terror. I don't know if she was looking at me or someone who had once been standing in that exact same spot, but she clearly saw someone or something that had terrified her. Then I blinked and she was gone. Some years later, after I'd half forgotten the incident, I was reading up on the hometown history. Site of a former Potawatomi Indian village has been on the town's billboard for longer than I can remember. But I hadn't known about the French fur traders. Nor had I known that after the Civil War, indigenous peoples and the French folk alike were rounded up and forcibly relocated by the U.S. Army so that land could be seized by the government and redistributed to the soldiers as payment for their service during the war. And I thought about our convenient little clearing in the woods, and the footsteps on the roof in the middle of the night, and the shadows and the gunshot and the girl, and I couldn't help but wonder. Spooky. You know what? It sounds believable enough to me. If there aren't too many details, sounds like a classic haunting. That one sounds believable.
So to me, it sounds more like a made-up Reddit story. Only because when she was describing the little girl, it was a little bit questionable to me.
A little too detailed?
Yeah,
a
little too detailed. I mean, I feel like when most people see, ghost figures,
mm-hmm.
I don't think they have like crystal clear blue eyes. Like, I don't think you go into that much detail.
I've heard ghost stories before where it's clear as day. It's not like a see-through apparition. It's just, maybe it's a time slip situation, something like that, instead of a true haunting. Thoughts?
Reddit.
You think Reddit?
Yeah.
I will say this.
I think it's a little too much detailed. There's a little too much detail.
I will say this. It was better written than a lot of shit online, so kudos to that.
That's true.
Nicole, you're up. I'm going to say real, you say Reddit.
I say Reddit. Okay, let me know if this is on your list.
If it is, we'll just skip them. It's no problem.
But that was just funny that like your first story was my first story.
It's lazy research here. This isn't a...
It wasn't lazy. I dove deep.
Oh, I just skimmed the top. I took the cream from the top.
I like went through and I was like reading a couple ones and I was like, oh, this sounds kind of shitty. And then I just went through.
Oh.
I've had quite a few experiences, but these two are my favorites. The first one happened when I was 11. I was staying at my dad's house during the summer. It was about 4:30 a.m., so everyone else in the house was asleep. I needed to use the bathroom, but the bathroom was at the end of a really scary, dark hall, so I didn't want to. Eventually, I got up, though, and as I was using the bathroom, someone suddenly knocked 3 times, may I add, on the bathroom door. I was waiting for you to do that. And then a few seconds later, I heard a little girl's voice.
Hello.
Probably around 3 or 4 years old, singing some sort of lullaby on the other side of the door. I, of course, was terrified because no one else was awake. I finished using the bathroom and then ran back to the room. I felt like I was being watched back in my room, so I put on a YouTube video to try to distract myself. But then a guy in the video said hi, and I heard the same little girl's voice whisper hello in my ear.
Hello.
Now on to the next one. So this one's a 2-parter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This one happened a couple years ago when I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
It was late at night and I was laying down and trying to sleep. I had LED lights up on my wall that was facing me. I need to add that I had my LED lights taped to the wall because they were always falling. So I know what them falling back looks like. I guess you need to preface that. So I was watching the LED lights when out of nowhere, I watched them get literally ripped off my wall. I was scared and tired though, so I just closed my eyes and forced myself back to sleep. Later that night, I woke up to my blanket halfway under my bed. I didn't think anything of it at first because I sleep at the edge of my bed and I woke up daily to my blanket on the floor. So I thought it was maybe just from me moving in my sleep.
You know, I've been doing that a lot recently. I'll wake up and the blanket is like half off. Sorry.
So I thought it was for me moving in my sleep until I went to grab it. I tried pulling my blanket back up to my bed, but I could feel something else at the end trying to pull it away from me. I like to joke that I was playing tug of war with a demon.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
A lot of assumptions here.
But I was, again, just way too terrified to do anything, so I just pulled it till I got it and then moved to the middle of my bed, put my blanket over my head, and went back to sleep.
That's a move a room situation at least.
I know. And then she says, my family on my dad's side is all very connected. I don't know if that's the right word to the paranormal world.
They have the shinning.
And I have a feeling that whatever pulled my blanket is a spirit that's been attached to me for quite some time now. And nothing's ever actually hurt me, so there's no need to reply saying I got a real demon on my hands. I don't think whatever or whoever is evil. Well, she's saying I don't...
It's pulling blankets. It's a trickster. And aren't tricksters usually an evil presence of sorts?
I guess.
Or a little girl, it sounds like.
I mean... In her case, it sounds like it's a little girl, but she said, I don't think whomever or whatever is evil. So I guess it doesn't give an evil vibe to her.
Okay. What do you think? Is this real or is this just a Reddit story?
This seems realistic to me because it sounds like a friend telling a friend a story. You know, you're not really going to go into grave detail. You're just going to be like, hey, this is weird. It happened to me.
I'm looking for in-betweens. I want a little detail, not too much. That one, I honestly, and I'm also a sucker and I want to believe. So I'm going to say real.
I'm going to say this one's real too because it sounds... The way that she wrote it sounds like me as if I was telling a story. I'm going to be pretty short, brisk, and to the point. Not include a lot of details.
Minus things that are confusing to read out loud when you're stumbling through something we've never read before, which is sometimes the worst with these internet stories.
True.
So don't worry, we'll edit this in post a bit, so it's maybe not... If this sounds like Shatner in post, it's because we were struggling reading shitty internet punctuation and writing. But, you know...
That's wrong. We just can't read.
Well, and a little bit of that. All right, on for story 2. One of my first ghost experiences was when I was about 9 or 11 years old. A relative of ours had passed away. After she passed, her family had given me a dresser of hers. She kept her stuff in immaculate condition. Well, when I was sleeping, I saw her standing at the foot of my bed. The next morning, I told my mom. She didn't say too much about it then. But then the next night, she was there again. I told my mom about her again the next day. She told me the only way to find out if something is real or not is to touch it. So this is now the third night I see her standing at the foot of my bed. So I sit up slowly. She's still there. I put one foot out of bed. I look, and she's still there. I put the other foot on the bed, and I'm now sitting on the edge of the bed, turning and looking, and I can still see her. She's just standing there, staring at me. I can see everything she had, gray hair put up with a few strands hanging down. One of her nostrils were smashed. In. She had a long white nightgown on, and I could see everything, just like any other person standing there. So now I stand up, and I'm facing her, and she's still there. I start walking toward her real slow, because I'm scared to death. She's still there. I put my hand out to touch her. I was probably only 1 inch away. I was probably only one inch away. I was probably only 1 inch away
Sorry.
I was probably only 1 inch away from her, and I can see everything. I can see veins in her hands. I can see wrinkles. I can see everything. I freaked out and I ran through the closet. I guess there's an exit through the closet. That's confusing. The only thing separating my room from my parents' room was the clothes hanging in a closet because it wasn't finished yet. Okay, interesting.
Oh, weird.
So it's a closet hallway. Jumped on my parents' bed, screaming and yelling, telling them, she's real. She's real. The next morning, I saw my dad outside burning the dresser. This was really strange for him because he was a pretty thrifty man and he would not destroy anything that was so good. But after he burned the dresser, I never saw her again. What do we think? Real or not? Where are we voting this one?
I know I talked a lot of shit about your first one, saying it was too detailed.
Mm-hmm.
This one was also very detailed.
Okay, you don't like detail. You want it vague.
With the full body apparition type of situation. But
this is one of those situations, again, doesn't look ghostly. Looks like a real person just there. Your thoughts on I feel like you want your ghost to be translucent and classic ghosty?
Yeah, that's how I feel that I would, if I were to see a ghost. That's what I would think. I wouldn't think it would just.
So you're not going to believe any story of someone.
No, I was going to say I believe this one.
Oh, okay. So this is a real one.
That's why I prefaced. I know I talked a lot of shit about the first one, but I feel like I do believe this one.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Because I feel like a lot of kids don't get credit when they see something scary.
Okay.
And they tell their parents, and
9 through 12 range.
Yeah, and this person's like, I told my mom multiple times, and she's like, touch it, which I would be like, don't touch it. You know?
Yeah, I'd be like, do not touch whatever's in your room. Let's move. I would burn the dresser immediately.
I would burn the dresser.
Or if it depends. If it's a nice piece of furniture, maybe I'll try to get it blessed or something. I don't know. Probably just burn it. That's the best call.
I'd probably get rid of it.
What if burning unleashes the demons and it's just worse now?
Well,
I think we should just give it to a neighbor as a gift.
Wow, you're a crappy neighbor.
Or, at least maybe like put it in a dump or an alley. Whoever gets it, that's their problem.
I would probably put it in the alley.
All right, what you got for me?
I work as a home inspector in Atlanta, Georgia. I have done more than 1,000 home and building inspections in my time as an inspector.
Been on the job a while.
Just for context, the oldest home in the state is located in Savannah, Georgia, about 3 to 4 hours from Atlanta.
Ooh, that's a spooky home.
This house, which is called the Herb House.
Herb House. Not a spooky name.
Nope. Is claimed to have been built in the 1730s, which does have some skeptics as to when it was really built. I tell you this because as a home inspector, I inspect all sorts of homes, old, new, decrepit, pristine, and pre-construction. Basically, if it is a home, I can and will inspect it.
Good for him.
I work in Atlanta and metro Atlanta areas for the most part, and the oldest home in Atlanta is the Joseph Willis House. It was built in the 1840s and is still located at its original location. The oldest building I've inspected was a church. I don't remember where. It was built in the late 1800s. The home that this story is about was built in the early 1900s in Atlanta. If you're not familiar with crawl spaces beneath houses, then you are lucky. A crawl space is an area underneath the house that is just dirt used for things such as storage or placing the water heater or HVAC units. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're just elevating it, no basement.
Interesting. Depending on how well the owners take care of the crawl space, there would be plastic covering the dirt and it would be clean. Most homeowners don't upkeep their crawl spaces. They are covered in spider webs, bugs everywhere, pools of water, and the wood flooring just covered in mold. This particular house that I was inspecting had been sitting empty for quite a while, and the crawl space was full of discarded trash, a very old furnace or boiler, depending on where you're from. This crawl space was very low, and I'm a big guy, and it was tough to crawl around. Some crawl spaces you can stand up in, but most you will be crawling.
I've been in a crouch, hunch over crawl space with my grandparents' old cabin.
Really? Like under the house?
Under the whole house.
Scary.
Yep.
I was talking to my clients and they were asking me to check specific things in the crawl space. After I finished, I began to squeeze myself into a fairly small entrance. I'm wearing my headlamp, a mask to keep my breathing clean, and what I call a crawl space suit, which is just a mechanic's jumpsuit. About 6 minutes of crawling around and taking photos and avoiding pools of water, my headlamp goes out. One of the fears I have while crawling around under these old houses is that the house will shift and pin me under and I will be trapped.
Yeah, that'd be my biggest fear, at crushing me.
So when my light went out, it was completely dark, and in my mind, I was anticipating the home crushing me. I tried rapidly to get my light back on. Stupid thing was constantly doing this at the wrong moments. Over my time doing inspections, I found a lot of things in weird places. Old
bodies.
Old soda cans, old shoes, clothing, signs. Most of it is pretty cool, and sometimes people will let me have things. Once I found a cavity in a wall...
Keep his body?
Maybe. Once I found a cavity in a wall that was only accessible through the attic, and it was nearly impossible to navigate, and in this cavity was a giant safe. It was open, and I guess it was empty. I jumped down 5 feet and took some photos, and it was completely empty, but very old. There was nothing cool or interesting in this particular house that I was slowly and carefully crawling under, so I thought. My light finally came back on, and there in front of me, washed in my beam of light, was a very old-looking stone wall. I could have sworn that it was not there before. This was a small house, and usually the size of the house directly reflects the size of the crawl space. I could see the entire crawl space from any area. It was surprising I missed this. I consider myself an explorer, and before I could take a photo of the well, I heard a voice say, "Help me."
Help me.
It was very ghostly and faint, and the person sounded very tired.
Help me.
I thought I was just hearing things when I heard, "Help me, I'm in the well, please."
Help me, I'm in the well, please.
I began rapidly crawling towards the well. The area around the well has enough clearance for me to stand on my knees. I glanced over to the edge of the well while balancing myself with my hands on the cold, damp stone wall of the well. My light shines down the well, and it has about 15 feet deep and only 1 foot of water. And there sitting at the bottom of this well is a dark-haired boy in what looks like an old-timey pajamas, clutching a soaking wet stuffed animal. I couldn't tell what kind of animal it was. It looked deteriorated. I gasped and said, "How did you get down there?" And all he replies was, "Help me, please."
Help me, please.
I yelled, "I will be right back."
Fuck this.
I yelled that I will be right back. I threw him my headlamp and used my inspection phone for a light to crawl right out of there. When I finally squeezed out of the small entrance, the clients saw me and chuckled at my filthy appearance and asked how it looked under there. I yelled at them to call 911. There is a boy in the well there. They understandably looked confused, as they had no idea that there was a well under their house. They began to dial, and I ran to my work truck to get my rope. I always have rope whenever, since I saw that movie Boondock Saints.
Sure.
Good movie. One of the guys says that you can never have too much rope. Factual.
Okay, this guy's trying to be fun. I don't believe the story, but go on. Go on.
Is it because he threw Boondock Saints in there?
Yeah, it's because he's trying to be entertaining too much, you know? He's giving me too much personality.
I know, but I like Boondock Saints.
I'm getting a wannabe writer vibe. Go on.
Yeah. I grabbed my length of the rope and my extra headlight and ran back to the entrance of the crawl space and dove inside the small opening. I was crawling as fast as I could while the floor joists kept smashing into my back, reminding me that they don't care what's going on. They are moving. I can hear sirens in the distance, hopefully heading to us. As I said, wherever you are in this crawl space, you can see every area. But what I didn't realize is that all my aggressive crawling has kicked up so much dirt in the space that I cannot see a foot in front of me. I cannot see where the well is. I call out, "Hey, where are you? Hello." And just then a very bright light pierces the dust in the darkness and someone calls out, "Fire department coming in." 3 firefighters.
They got there quick.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Go on.
3 firefighters crawl over to me with all sorts of rescue equipment asking me where the boy is. I tell them he's in the well, and now 4 people are kicking up dust. We start making careful movements so that the dust can settle, and once it's settled enough, we all frantically are looking for the well. We could see every area in the crawl space, and there was no well. There was no space that you could stand on your knees. There was nothing. I was completely confused. The 4 of us did some thorough investigation of the crawl space before crawling out and finding nothing. I was adamant about seeing the boy in the well asking for help. I could remember vividly the feel of the cold, damp stone well wall. I could not explain anything. I couldn't answer any of their questions. The police informed me that I needed to be sure of something before I call 911. It was so strange. This was my first paranormal experience, and now I know how others feel and what the true definition of eerie is. Now, every time I enter into a building for an inspection, I apologize to anything that may be there for invading their space, but I will leave shortly. I haven't seen anything since that day, and I hope whoever that was at the bottom of the well finds peace. Maybe all he wanted was my headlamp. I never found it after I tossed it down to him. I also think bullshit.
I think total bullshit.
Yep.
Too much going on. Things didn't make sense a little bit. Yeah. Police got there immediately while he was still under. I don't know about
it was
that.
a lot.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Next.
All right. Let me see what I got here. Years ago, I worked in a secured building for over a decade. The entry had a wireless doorbell inside a locked, plated glass vestibule, along with motion-activated lights. The building had a long history of ghost sightings and odd occurrences of objects being pushed off counters, voices whispering in people's ears, women's hair being touched from behind, and human-like images walking through closed doors. Unfortunately, I never witnessed any of these events. On my last night on the job, there was a small gathering of my coworkers and the topic of the ghost was mentioned. I said that I'd never seen the ghost, and I believe the stories, but I just never witnessed anything. Immediately after I completed that sentence, the doorbell rang and the motion sensor lights turned on, but no one was inside the vestibule. The motion lights would activate occasionally without cause, but never the doorbell. We all stared in quiet amazement given my comment in the immediate event. I felt like the ghost was pranking and wishing me well after a lengthy term inside the business. Shorty but a goodie, what do you think?
I think I could believe that one.
I believe the story, whether or not it's ghost, whatever. It could be, electrical malfunction, whatever.
Yeah,
but
it seems believable.
Short and to the point, nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
I buy that one too.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding. We got a winner there.
When I was around 15, my family and I moved into a 3-bedroom house. My older sister chose the bigger bedroom, and I didn't really care much at the time. I got the smaller room down the hall, which kind of looked creepy since there was a window right at the end of the hallway, and my bedroom would be on the side where the window was. So when you go out of the room and on your right, you would see a small window on the wall next to me where the hallway ends. As I was getting my stuff into my bedroom, I saw something odd, which looked like a nail, which was on the windowsill. Ew. Sorry, that was just gross. I ignored it and just went back into my room. Little did I know that this house was previously owned by a crazy old woman who had died in this house. My parents told me this after when things started getting worse. So anyway, as I unpacked everything and sorted my stuff, I felt a cold breeze come out of nowhere. Mind you, it was the freaking summer, and it was
a freaky summer.
Mind you, it was the freaking summer, and it was very hot during that time. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a black figure unmoving right where the window was. It was 6 to 7 feet away from it because I was in my room. During this time, I froze and felt tingles down my spine. I quickly ran downstairs to my parents, and I didn't have the words to explain of what just occurred. After calming down a bit, I told them about the black figure, and my father went upstairs with me to check up on it. But he said, "You're not a child anymore, Sky."
Stop being a...
Basically, I felt hurt because he thought I was playing around with him. He then checked everywhere, my room, the window close by, and there was nothing. A few hours went by, and we were all eating dinner. My older sister was in a bad mood and was texting her friends at the table, which she always used to do.
I hate my family. My dad's at worst.
I was the talkative one whenever it was time to eat dinner with my family, but in reality, I'm an introverted girl. So when I was asking my dad how his day went, he works as a construction worker, he said it was okay. Suddenly we heard a loud thump coming from upstairs. You kind of see the hallway because that's where the stairs led up to, and downstairs is where the dining area is next to the kitchen. My dad then asked, "What was that?" in a concerned tone. He got up from the diving table and grabbed his old bat he always kept in the kitchen if we were in danger.
Nice. The danger bat.
He slowly made his way upstairs and heard more sounds. Thump, thump, thump. It got louder and I was scared as shit as daylight.
I was scared as shit as daylight. I don't know what that means, but I guess that's a saying.
Yeah, it got louder and I was scared as shit as daylight. He led them...
You know, when you're scared of daylight?
I guess.
I get it.
I don't. He then go the final step and went to stand in front of my room. He also looked to the side where the window was, outside in the hallway. No one was there, but the sounds mostly came from my room. He tried to open the door, but it was locked. How could it be? I never locked it, and there was no lock on it or anything that makes it locked. It was an old doorknob.
It's called jammed. It's a door's jammed.
Well, you know, she's...
Humidity, you know, what expands?
My dad began to push all his body against the door, and it finally opened so hard that he nearly fell over. I wanted to see what the commotion was, so I ran upstairs so fast to see if he was okay. My dad told me he was fine and that the door was unstuck.
Yeah, we heard.
Right. As he was talking to me in my room, I felt like he was looking out the window, and what I saw was dreadful. It was a dark figure standing outside, looking through my window directly at me, and I screamed so loud that the neighbors could hear it. Ah! My dad rushed to me and didn't see anything. I told him something was there, but he just couldn't see it, and then the figure vanished. No one believes me to this day, and I'm glad we finally and eventually moved out of that creepy house. That's bullshit.
Yeah, I don't believe that one. A couple comments. One, what does the nail have to do with it?
I don't know.
That was just a weird detail. Here's an issue I have with some ghost stories. You give me intimate details of the layout of your house, but it's hard for people to picture that, and I don't give a shit. Just say, I walked upstairs and down the hall. Don't be like, and the hallway's interesting because it kind of zigzagged. I don't care. You don't make me imagine anything too difficult. Just make it basic.
That's what I want, too. I just want basic, short, sweet, and to the point.
Yeah, God. 2 minutes.
Like one friend telling another friend, you know?
Yeah, I'm going to call BS on that one here. Okay, so this is some guy that's already written in, but I don't have that one, so, you know, the beginning won't make sense.
Yeah.
This one happened much, much later, around 2011. My wife at the time and I moved back to the city we had met. Let's just say it was Seattle, and where her parents were living.
Oh, Seattle.
Yeah, let's just imagine. We just spent around 6 years living in San Francisco and had 2 small children. We were renting a house in the suburban Phoenix area. Okay, I was wrong. So they're in Phoenix now.
Oh, I thought that it literally said, like, let's say Seattle.
Nope, I'm just guessing.
Oh, okay.
That was just a guess for me.
Okay.
The first few months we were fine. Nothing notable. Around 3 to 4 months afterward, though, some seriously creepy stuff started happening. First, my daughter, 3 at the time, came running into our room screaming about how the Wolfman was at her window, trying to come inside. I didn't really pay much mind, knowing how little kids can have an overactive imagination. But then my ex-wife and I started noticing things too. We'd hear weird noises coming from the air ducts, almost like a biblical choir singing style humming. Then out of the corner of my eye, I saw a man wearing a fedora hat standing in front of my closet in my room. She said she saw something similar too, from what I remember. But here's where things get even weirder. Her mom, super conservative evangelical, told us she had a golfing friend who is super hippy-dippy and could do readings of our house. So I contacted this lady over email and asked if she'd do this for us. She explained the process, which involved us drawing a map of our house and giving it to my then mother-in-law. But she insisted that I not tell her where I had seen, heard anything, just that I gave her the map. I drew a rough sketch and gave it to the MIL, which I thought said MILF, and it took me a second not just to say, and I gave it to the MILF. So to reiterate, Yeah, that makes more sense. But that's just where my mind went. So to reiterate, this lady had no idea where we had experienced anything. Also, she refused to take any money for this. She just wanted to help us. I guess my mother-in-law, not MILF, swore she didn't tell this lady any specifics, and she is not a person who lies. Very goody two-shoes. Fast forward a week or so later, I get an email from her with our results. She said she saw a presence in my bedroom by the closet door. She said he may have been dressed in old-fashioned clothing, remember the fedora? And that he was effectively my guardian angel. She didn't use that term, but something very similar. Basically, he was there to protect me. He was there to protect me specifically, and that he was not malevolent at all. Shortly after, I stopped detecting this presence. During this time, I was going through some personal problems that I was going to great lengths to hide from everyone. At one point, I don't remember if it was just before the reading or after, I was entering the house after work and saw what I can only describe as something that looked like a fleet of angels flying into the house from the sky. Very vague and ethereal looking. It's not like they were in physical form. I tend to give that less weight than the reading, but who knows? I deleted that email from her because it freaked me out so much. I now wish I kept it. For the record, I'm an agnostic atheist, depending on what day of the week you ask me. What do we think? We're getting angels, demons-y, religion-y on these ones.
I don't believe this one.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, one, you know me and my skepticism on mind readers and fortune tellers. Well, one, I'm just terrified they're going to tell me I'm going to die soon. So
But if you're skeptical about it, why would you even show a sign of fear? Okay.
If they're a good actor, I will buy into it and be terrified.
why would you even... It shouldn't affect you if you don't even believe it.
But it will. I don't want it to. You know what I mean? It scares me. But
I like that stuff.
Let's get through some of these big life things and then let's do it. Okay? How about that? But what do we think? We're thinking this one's not real?
Yeah, I don't think it's real.
Yeah, I'm also maybe claiming BS on this one too. I don't know. You're up. What do you got for me?
On our way home from vacation, my 5-year-old daughter and I got stuck in traffic caused by an accident up ahead. My daughter...
Are we going to have a Sixth Sense moment where the person's dead?
I don't know.
That's my guess.
My daughter asked why we had stopped. I told her someone had wrecked. That's when she responded, "Remember that when that happened to me?"
Oh, past life.
I was confused. She'd never been in a car accident. I laughed, thinking she was playing pretend or something, and I asked her what she's talking about. She said, "Don't you remember? We were going to the store and then we hit something and then the glass had cut me and it hurt so bad and I was scared at first. I thought I was dying, but Daddy kept saying that it would be okay and I knew he wouldn't lie." I just stared at her for a minute. I'm not sure what to say. For one thing, the whole thing was crazy.
That'd be creepy. I don't want to hear my kids saying anything like that.
For one thing, the whole thing was crazy. I'd never been in an accident and neither had my daughter. And the other thing was she didn't have a daddy. I mean, of course she had a father, but he wasn't part of the picture and had never been. So where was she getting this from?
The internet.
Traffic cleared and we continued on our way home, and it slipped my mind. A few weeks later, while I was on the phone with my mom, I remembered it and I told her about it.
That would be on my mind constantly. I'd be asking more questions and digging and doing research.
After a pause, my mom told me that when she was just about 3 years old, there had been a car accident, and that her older sister, who was 5 at the time, had been killed with a piece of glass from the windshield and had somehow slit her throat. It was such a tragedy that for the most part, her family tried to pretend it hadn't happened, getting rid of everything that reminded them of her sister and getting rid of everything that reminded them of her sister and never mentioning it, which was why I never knew about it. My mom said that she could barely remember the accident itself since she was so young, but she said she'd never forget her dad crying and he held her sister in his arms and repeated over and over again, "You'll be okay, you'll be okay, you'll be okay." I felt chills running down my spine as I wondered how my daughter could have possibly known that. Okay, so that I can believe.
We're going to believe it.
Yeah, I feel like...
One, I've been getting a lot of past life stories on TikTok and the internet.
Yeah, past life stories and like, what are they, like the regressions or
past
whatever?
Life regression
yeah,
stuff.
I feel like that's believable.
Yeah, I don't know where I fall on spirit religious stuff, but I could believe that as a possibility. There's so many stories of people remembering past lives, mainly children. That I'm open to believe that one.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say yes.
I'm gonna say yes also.
Okay, let me look for a good one here. Someone was walking in my room. So the other day I was helping move some furniture for a neighbor I'll call Nancy. Nancy.
Are you calling Nancy or is this?
No, that's the person. They're calling her
okay.
Nancy. My next door neighbors had abandoned their place and the furniture had been moved out onto the veranda. Nancy wanted some of it, so I helped her move it to the apartment. And thanks, I got to keep a few pieces for myself, including a mirror. I joked with Nancy that the mirror was probably cursed or something. So I took it home, cleaned it, and set it in the living room only because I already felt a little uneasy about bringing an old mirror into my home. All was fine, so I put it in the bedroom. The night I put it in my bedroom, I was trying to sleep when I kept hearing the fan making weird noises. It had that sound that fans kind of make when something moves in front of it, making that sound shift around. It happened often enough that it woke me out of sleep. And as I was coming out of it, I felt someone scooting past my hammock. Why are they sleeping in a hammock? Oh, wait. I sleep in a hammock due to chronic pain. Oh, okay. Interesting.
I like how you asked the question. It's right there.
Right there.
The next time.
I even feel them pause right at my head for a moment. I thought it was my husband at first. I don't look into these at all. I would do character voices for you if I read ahead. I thought it was my husband at first. I thought it was my husband at first, but when I opened my eyes, he was in his own bed, dead asleep. Oh, there's like a 50s style separation. Granted, there's a pain cot situation going on, but
yeah,
I feel sad now.
You have a dog under your desk or under your chair.
I'd feel someone moving around and I'd hear the fan doing weird things. It got to the point that I woke up and grumpily crawled into my husband's bed. The next day I told my husband about it. I had already thought to myself, maybe it had been something to do with the mirror, but I was still skeptical. But then my husband says, "You don't think of it as the mirror, do you?" As of late, he's been having trouble sleeping as well. I'm not sure if it's the mirror, but I do believe it's possible. I also believe it could just be that we are going through some worrisome times right now and are stressing ourselves and having restless sleep. But it's still very strange. I consider myself a skeptical believer. I do believe in the paranormal, as I have had more than enough odd things happen in my life that I still cannot explain. But I can also believe that many things can be explained. So I'm still a little iffy on whether or not it's the mirror. Either way, I'm about to cleanse it so I can start using it for my altar and hope nothing else walks into my room. So, okay,
what? That last part was just a little.
Yeah, now we're just throwing weird witchy things in here. I also need to add that this isn't the first time something has walked through at night, even before getting the mirror. I have wards and things up, but it seems sometimes things still slip through. Bullshit. Okay, so this person's looking for stuff.
So I'm torn on this one. Like, I could believe it, but I also could not believe it.
I believe that this person wrote down what they believe is true. I think their fan was making a weird noise. That's all that happened. They maybe, I think they were having restless sleep from stress, and the fan was acting up. I don't think anything supernatural even happened, so I believe the story. I'm going to say, yes, this is true, and nothing happened.
I can see that. That's like where I'm torn. Like, I can believe it.
When I started hearing
also some things I'm
altar
just like,
and crystals, and well, she didn't say that, but then on my head, ding, 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 I got a untethered alert.
Yeah, but why would you do an altar though?
I don't know, because they're obviously.
Also, which wall is this mirror on? Is it like on a wall facing the outside? Because there's also, isn't there like a.
Oh, you about to tell me some weird spiritual things?
Yeah, so I think. Sorry. I think my mom told me this, or maybe it was my aunt. I can't remember which family member. It probably was my mom. You're not supposed to put a mirror facing a wall
towards the outside
of the house, because it can be a portal where spirits can come through it into your house. I think, if I recall correctly.
Well, I'm currently looking at a mirror that does that.
No, like that mirror.
That one's fine.
Yeah. So if like that mirror was on, not like you guys can see this room, but if that mirror was like on this wall.
Oh, so it has to be on an outside wall.
It has to be on an outside wall.
Oh, I thought just facing the outside.
No,
gotcha. That's
sorry. Maybe I worded that weird, but it has to be on an outside wall.
Okay. Do you want to do one more story? Then we'll call this episode?
Yeah. When I was younger, I used to work as a night auditor for a very popular hotel chain in New Orleans. This particular hotel was once an old warehouse in the central business district. It had a long history that dated back to the Underground Railroad, where the tunnels built throughout the building were used to secretly lead slaves to boats on the Mississippi River. When the hotel owners started demo on the property to convert it into a hotel, they found an old distillery equipment used during the Prohibition days.
Nice.
The building was saturated in fantastic and interesting history. I was told that during the renovation, a decision was made up to keep much of the existing brick and woodwork. This gave the hotel an intriguing, historic, and warehouse feel to it. While it hadn't been occupied in nearly 40 years, the guts of the building were in amazingly great shape. It was an interesting vibe, and New Orleans is known for attracting the most interesting guests for Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest. I loved it there until the night I quit. It was close to 3:30 a.m. when one of the guests stumbled in with a woman who frequented the hotel as a quote-unquote guest of our guests. She was one of the unspoken perks that our concierge desk would provide when requested only by the most distinguished of guests.
Hold up. This hotel has a hooker on call?
I'm not saying that.
No, they are fancy.
I'm not
Wow. What a chain.
denying it.
Holiday Inn.
It's a
La Quinta.
La Quinta. An incredibly beautiful, tall black woman, Diamond never had a problem getting work, and she tipped us at the front desk. Security and concierge incredibly well for turning a blind eye to her activities. Being a professional flirt and me being bored out of my mind most nights, we often found ourselves having conversations when she finished her shift.
So he's a little bit slutty too. Cool.
I mean, it seems like he likes to flirt and pass the time. The stories she would share with me to this day boggle my simple mind. Being that she had worked in the hotel longer than I had, she would tell me these stories about certain row of spa suites that were visible from where I stood at the front desk.
Sweet spots?
Spa suites.
Oh, spa suites.
Yeah.
I was like, what's a spa suite?
Yeah. Spa suites that were visible from where I stood at the front desk up to the mezzanine. She mentioned how strange things would happen in those rooms when she or one of her girlfriends would visit them at night with a client. They were strange things like shadows, moving objects, flickering lights, and voices. I always took it as her showing off her art of storytelling at the fact that she knew I often work at the desk alone at night, a point she often made when failing to meet a personal quota for the night. On the night
How many Johns is she bringing back to the hotel?
I don't know.
I thought this was more of like a high-class escort situation.
That's what I thought. So
but now she's seeming like a common street hussy.
She's a working lady.
Yeah, no shame in her profession.
You called her a hussy.
Yeah, I feel bad. I take that back, We support sex workers here. Not fine. I mean, we don't their services.
We support them. On the night I quit, however, she was not her usual self. Fact of the matter is, I didn't even speak to her that night or any night thereafter. The last time I saw her, she was running naked and screaming right out of the front door of the hotel. I remember hearing her first through one of the spa suite rooms in the mezzanine. When I looked up to investigate the location of the sounds, I saw her hurl open the door of room M106. I watched her haul ass down the glass-walled hallway, down the stairs, and down the street. I just stood there watching her in shock and awe for a moment. Here was this voluptuous woman flopping all about, screaming, petrified, and covered in something, and all I could do was gawk. The moment she ran out of sight, I sobered up and immediately gazed up at the open door of room M106. After staring up the wide open entrance of the room of the mezzanine for about a minute, my stomach dropped every time I saw a shadow change within that room. Soon,
we're having just a Ghostbusters courtroom situation of a powerful haunting. Jeez.
Soon, Bill, the lone security guard on duty, whipped around the corner
and was like, fuck this.
from the back office area where he took naps and quickly started asking me questions.
Nice.
Her screams woke him up. I pointed to the room and tried to explain to him what had happened. He immediately called the police for backup, and per protocol, we both started to make our way up the mezzanine level, eyes transfixed on the open door, waiting for the drunken man to stumble out of the room. As we reached the hallway, other guests started peeping their heads out of their rooms to see what the commotion was about. We quietly hushed them back into their rooms for their own safety.
Shut up! Get back in there!
As we approached the doorway, Billy pulled out his gun and called out to the guest.
Whoa, he has a gun? Isn't he just security? He's probably an off-duty cop.
Maybe. There was no response, but we started to hear a very audible humming sound, almost like a rapid buzzing. When we entered the suite, we could see a king-size bed at the end of the hallway.
Is it levitating?
This was one of the smaller spa suites that had a bed, an armoire with a TV, a desk, and a jetted spa tub in the kitty corner to the bed.
Nice hotel room.
The bed was unkempt but empty, and we couldn't see the rest of the room from the hallway. So we moved closer in, and with every step, the humming began to get louder, and the shadows on the walls seemed to be floating back and forth like they were waves in the ocean. I called out again to see if we can get an answer, but we did not. We moved closer to the edge of the hallway, slowly and terrified. This is when we began to see them. The cause of the shadow was everywhere and on everything. They seemed to blanket the entire room, on the bed, on the walls, in the air. Then we turned the corner. Under the heat lamp above the bathtub spa, there it was, a huge, tent-sized swarm of angry and hungry termites. In the tub laid our naked guest, covered in termites, being devoured by termites. His body was marked by broken wings and a small drill hole all along his skin. His eyes partially liquefied from the incessant digging of the termites. This once portly white man was reduced to a shade of red, brown, and gray of crawling skin. The sight and swarm made it unbearable to stay, and Bill and I ran out of the room, tripping over each other in our haste. When the police arrived, they turned off the lights to the room, and the swarm almost vanished instantly into the old wood beams that lined the room. A blanket of dead pests covered the room, and the crunch I remember hearing as we walked through the room still haunts me to this day. I was told Diamond suffered from post-traumatic stress syndrome after the incident. She supposedly said that the man started to get very rough with her, and that the shadow floated out of the cracks of the wood and startled the guest. He fell back into the tub, and that's when the swarm manifested itself. The cause of death was a traumatic brain injury, but it wasn't from the fall, it was from the nesting of the termites. To this day, you can still rent room M106 at the old warehouse at the hotel in downtown New Orleans. It's just under a different number.
Bullshit.
I would say bullshit also, but it's very well.
Good story.
Yeah, it's a good story.
It's a fun story. It got a little scary movie in the end where you're showing and telling too much. That's too. We can look that up and it would be somewhere. But yeah, something tells me that is not.
But
real
termites
story.
though.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. So the hotel went after an aggressive man, an aggressive John.
Yeah,
well, that's a fun story.
A guy being rough with Diamond.
It just sounds like a scary story where the hotel chooses. Yeah. Well, I kind of like that story.
Yeah,
but
I like that one too.
Don't believe it, but I'm going to give it a ding of approval.
Ding.
Well, thanks for checking out our first episode of Reddit Real or Not. Hopefully you like the series and we come back to it at a later date. Maybe we'll keep going for the next episode. Who knows? But if you like what you heard, make sure you like and subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate and review. If you want more content out there, check out everything from the Majestic Jam Network. Have a happy and safe Halloween out there, and we'll check you on the next one.
Bye. Bye.